Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Alrighty, welcome back to the show. Today's going to be just a little bit different. You know that we talk a lot about entrepreneurialism. However, the primary purpose of the show is to showcase women who are making a difference, women who are persons of impact, and how they move through that. So, when I say life, love, and business, I really do mean that because we're complex, right? We're complex individuals. Women are unique creatures in the sense that it's not just one vertical or one piece, it's all of it together. I had an opportunity this last week to go to an event and meet other podcasters and other authors and other speakers and this next guest stood out to me because she's talking about a very hard subject for a lot of people, and it's because most of us have been or in our lifetime will be touched by suicide. And suicide is such a disruptive force. It cripples so many people and makes it unable for them to move forward and build the life they love because we get stuck. And I've seen this, I've witnessed this personally within my family that this incredibly beautiful woman is standing here with absolute power after experience this and now she's on a quest. So in September of 2022, Michelle sold her house. She embarked on a journey to save lives. Since then, she has traveled over 40,000 miles through 30 states and in one Canadian province. We'll have to see if we can change that. On her Triumph Tiger motorcycle, talking with countless individuals, sharing information and stories. And it has also been a journey to heal her own brokenness. Her journey actually began years earlier in 2016 when she lost two of her children to suicide. She has now become a passionate advocate for suicide prevention. Through the nonprofit she founded, Project 24/7, Michelle is working to save lives, save families, and the fallout of suicide. All right. So let's bring her in. And you know what? If this is not the episode, totally cool. You come back anytime. We're here to support you. But I believe this is a story that we need to hear and share. So let's bring Michelle in. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we dive into why you're here, I would like to get a little bit more pre-frame as to who is Michelle. Aside from the
Mhm.
motorcycle chick, the happening and cool motorcycle chick, give us a little bit of pre-frame as to who is Michelle.
Well, I'm Czech. I was actually born in the Czech Republic. I was born in Prague, and my family emigrated to America when I was a little girl. I think that's what contributed to my wanderlust. We went exploring as soon as we got our citizenship and started exploring all over America. And when I decided to start my healing journey, I thought, I want to go exploring. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going everywhere and finding the out of the way cool things. Like, did you know that there is a petrified forest in Mississippi?
No, I did not know that. I
Yeah,
did
so
not
I'm
know that.
finding all
Very
kinds of cool
cool.
things on my journey. But I was an army wife for over 20 years. I'm a mom. I had 4 kids. I still have a son who's a captain in the army, and he has 2 little girls with his wife. And my daughter is now 23. She just got engaged recently. Ooh, that's exciting.
Ooh, excellent.
So, yeah. And like you already said, I'm a passionate advocate for suicide prevention because we have awareness. Everybody knows it's a problem. It's time to move to the next stage. and start looking for tools for people to have in their tool belt to help them through those dark times.
It is fascinating. Suicide, we know, does kill, and
Mhm.
yet we don't see numerous ads or promotions or anything on this. We'll see cancer, we'll see all, don't drink and drive, we see all
Yeah.
these other PSAs and all these other medications, and yet this seems to be still one of those
Mhm.
things people just don't want. They wanna keep it behind closed doors. They wanna keep it in the dark,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody, 'cause I believe
No.
that it's not just the person who passes. There's an entire
Mhm.
environment that passes too, like all
Yeah.
those experiences and the holidays and the future that could be, because any other
Mhm.
moms out there, the moment you get pregnant, you sit there and you go, "Oh," you could see their entire life.
Yep.
When you get pregnant, you see their entire life, and now
Mhm.
that story reel has been disrupted permanently. Walk me
Yep.
through what you're doing, and I love the fact, please tell everybody about your motorcycle, because am not coordinated enough to even ride a bicycle, let alone a motorcycle. So I'm a little envious of the two-wheel thing, because I need 4 underneath me. My husband prefers it to be a golf cart because I can do less damage, but I'm not a good driver. Okay, so let's go into what you're doing and how this is reshaping the people you engage.
Well, talking about people I engage, when you're on a motorcycle, you're exposed, and people are much more likely to open up to you and talk to you, as opposed to when motorcyclists refer to people in cars as cagers, because you're in a cage,
Yeah.
right? And you miss so much of what you're driving around and through because you're in this cage. You can't see the beautiful sky above you when there's a sunrise or a sunset. It's not just this little bit of window, it's the whole sky that lights up, right? But when you're in a car, you're missing it. So my motorcycle is a Triumph Tiger. It's the 900, so it's one of the smaller Tigers. It's an adventure bike, so you sit very upright on it. And I have tons of luggage. So I have the 2 side cases. I've got a top case behind me. And then for all my clothes, I've got a 40-liter dry bag that fits across the back seat. So
Wow, and that's tons of luggage, eh? You've never
that's
seen me
tons of
go on a
luggage.
trip. My husband
Well,
goes, "Are you
it's
carrying a
funny.
body with that?" 'Cause I'm like going, "I got my 4 bags, and here's my carry-on, and here's my purse," and so that would be the first thing. First challenge for me. It's not even the balance act. It's how do I pare it
Yeah,
all down? And you're
very minimal.
so you're traveling all across 40,000 miles.
Mhm,
Give us a little bit about that journey. So take us all the way right back to the beginning when
mhm.
that very first mile. Why that became your your mantra to get out there to do this, because that's a huge commitment.
Yeah. Well, right before I started, 988, the National Suicide Hotline's number now is 988 in the US, in all 50 states. But each state owns the 911 program. And it finally rolled out to the last states in August of last year. And people needed to get the word out. And also, I had had an idea, Project 24/7, for a new suicide prevention tool. And I thought, I can't wait for um, fundraising and starting a nonprofit. I've got to get the word out somehow. So I had stickers made for 988 and Project 24/7, and I used those as conversation starters to get people to start talking about it. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've gotten a hug or somebody crying and saying, "Oh my gosh, I needed this today." The stories that I've heard, It's amazing how just a little sticker can make such a huge difference. So, that was what I took with me on my journey, was giving out these stickers, and I'd anchor my journey with friends or family that I hadn't seen in a long time. That's how I picked my destinations. For 2024, I'm picking destinations based on my speaking schedule, but for the first year, I just wanted to get better
Yep.
because I lost the kids in 2016, and I was just, "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine," and plugging away until 2019, my brain just shut down, and I couldn't work anymore, and the psychologist describes it as a two-cylinder engine that's firing on one cylinder
Yep.
because the other one is consumed with grief. So I'm in therapy for it, but the best therapy that I could find was to get on my motorcycle
Yep.
and go ride and meet those family and friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. I went all the way to Los Angeles from Georgia and met my cousin, and he introduced me at a party as, "Oh, this is my cousin I haven't seen in 40 years." It blew my mind, and I said, "Gary, it hadn't been 40 years." And we counted, and it was 38 years.
Wow.
So, I went to see my mother, I went to see my son and his family, and just anchored my trips with people that I hadn't seen for too long.
And what an amazing way to just literally I guess there's a transition because you had to go from the house, right? Right? Where
Mhm.
you that was because we have touchstones
Yeah,
psychologically that
yeah.
connect us, right?
Mhm,
So you severed that connection so you can move
mhm.
forward and start healing. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's very hard for a lot of people to do because like you, there will be other children. There'll
Mhm.
be or ch I know I met a gal where her husband committed suicide, lost all of his money, in, his investment, and he just couldn't face his wife, and he just felt that there was no hope. And we see this very prevalent, and just so you know, this is not just a child thing. Our men in their
Oh, no.
50s are in huge jeopardy, especially as we see
Yeah,
the economy, the recession and or
yeah.
shrinkflation or whatever you wanna call it. We are in the same kind
Yeah.
of timeline as in the '80s when we saw
Mhm.
all these, interest rates, we saw the food, and we saw housing, we saw
Oh,
everything
yeah.
escalate, but we're not seeing people's incomes escalate. In fact, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing, due to new
Yep.
technologies that a lot of higher income opportunities are actually shrinking. So this is a really important talk, and so talk to me now a bit about so you had this spark for Project 24/7, and just so everybody knows,
Mhm.
that's project the word spelled out, and that's 24 numeral and 7 oops, wrong. Yeah, right there. And 7 is spelled out .org. So if you're looking for it, it's spelled out project and 7 and 24 is a numeral in the center .org. So walk me through this. So you're on your motorcycle, you're reconnecting with people to help start the healing process and um,
Mhm.
you're getting your motorcycle legs and you're getting out there and starting to rebuild you. um,
Mhm.
Walk me through Project 24/7 and then how this parlays into 2024. You have a speaking circuit.
Sure. So, Project 24/7 is a very simple concept. It's using your phone to remove some of the friction to reach out. So you set up a group in your phone, you label it 24/7 so that the numerical group is the first one at the top under the emergency contacts that first responders would use for you. So this is your emergency contact list for you to use. So
Oh,
the first thing, piece of friction that's removed is you're not scrolling looking for somebody to call. Second piece of friction, you make excuses not to call. Well, they want you to call, right? These are the people that are going to be pissed off at you at your funeral that you didn't call them. And that 24/7 is your reminder that they want you to call anytime, any day. It's that simple. Then we're raising funds to make it an auto dialer to take it one step further so that you just have to activate the app and it'll keep dialing until it gets a live person to talk to you. And it'll have radio buttons for you to pre-select which suicide hotline you would feel comfortable talking to. So if none of your contact is available, it'll go to that suicide hotline. So you're guaranteed to have a live person to talk to when you need it most.
wow. That and you know what? And I want people to understand the complexity of building an app like that. It's not simple. It's
Yeah,
expensive too.
no.
It's
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm told $80,000,
yeah, yeah,
and that's just
absolutely.
to build it. That's
Yeah,
just to build it. That's not all the support afterwards and bug fixes and things like that. It's gonna take a lot of money. So, we're waiting on our 501 letter any day. Who waits for a letter from the IRS, right?
absolutely,
So
absolutely. And what does that
yeah,
look like? Is you're waiting for funding or you're waiting for what is
our
that?
nonprofit status for the
Okay.
501 number. A
Forgive me, I'm in
501c.
Canada, so tell me what a
Yeah.
501 is and how you
A
got that.
501c is a nonprofit so that people who donate to you, that money they donate is not taxable. So you give them
Okay.
a tax deduction receipt for any donations. So until we get that 501c, people are donating, but they're not donating large quantities because they want that tax deduction. They want to
Absolutely,
donate where they get the benefit too, and that's totally understandable,
absolutely.
um, because
And
there are
it
lots of really worthy causes.
oh, and what great timing in the sense that now that you've spent this time to build your, I guess, name as an
Mhm.
authority within the space, right? You've already spent the now it's actually incredible timing in the sense that it seems like everything's kind of coming together. It's all it's
Yeah.
you'll have that 501 and you're also
Mhm.
launching your speaking. So tell us a little bit about your speaking career and how we went from 2009 realizing that, or 2019 realizing that you're starting to
Yeah.
stutter,
Yeah.
shutting everything down, selling everything
Mhm.
off, buying a
Mhm.
motorcycle, paring down everything you own to a storage locker and the back of your motorcycle,
Yeah.
you being recognized as an authority speaker that people are gonna bring in. Can you give us that bridge right there?
Well, I was starting a speaking business before we lost the children, and after losing the children, I learned a lot about resiliency, and I made that my keynote, teaching about resiliency. And then when I started Project 24/7, I dropped that because Project 24/7 was more important to speak about. And speaking about suicide prevention really became my passion. So that's my focus is speaking on just how to save lives.
And did you find greater clarity and you like an accelerated timeline once you gain that? Because I know a lot of us can sit and spin
Mhm.
and try, well, maybe this is the message and maybe that's the message. Do you find that you're now moving
No.
faster than you were before
Yeah.
because you have full
Yeah.
clarity?
Clarity is the word that came to mind for me too. Yes, it crystallizes everything and pares everything down. For a lot of speakers, it's very hard for them to niche down. Oh, my talk would be great for everybody, but it was very easy for me to niche down to school children. That's really my primary focus is speaking to schools. Yes, I speak to service organizations and things like that, Rotary Lions, different organizations, but my focus is on the schools because we're
Wow.
losing so many children. and we want them to have that in their tool belt. And my program plugs into existing suicide awareness programs
Yeah.
because they're providing these kids with people to call. What are the kids going to do with that list? Are they going to put it in their phone? And then are they going to remember which teacher wanted them to call them? Which counselor are they supposed to call? So, using that tool of creating the 24/7 group and adding the contacts that the school gives them, there's that list of people right there,
Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm seeing how now all
right?
this is moving together. Brilliant.
Yeah. So, that's where I'm starting is with the school kids
And
because
I can see a TEDx in you also being able
Mhm.
to expand even further at a faster
Yes.
rate, right?
Yes.
Um, in the so how okay, so how does I've got so many questions. Um, what is a uh, what is a way that we as adults can broach this with our children without scaring them?
Oh, that's a great question. So, the schools are already talking about it, and they're giving the kids what signs to look for. And if you're uncertain how to talk to your kids, the schools are a great resource. Go to your kid's school counseling department and they will help you with it. They will help you by showing you maybe a bookmark or some other kind of document of the signs to look for, and they'll work with you and give you some conversation starters and some pointers how to have that conversation. But the schools are a wonderful resource. I really recommend people connect with their schools for that.
Absolutely. What are those signs? Can you give us a few signs that we can
Yeah,
kinda just tuck away and that way we have them?
yeah. Some are if you see them withdrawing, they're not as interested in things that used to interest them. If you see that their eating habits have changed, either they're binging eating a lot or they're just not hungry a lot of the time, that might be a sign of depression. Um, if their friends call and, "Oh, I don't feel like going out today," or their sleeping patterns change. They're up at 3 in the morning when they didn't used to be. Watch for things, and they're the best actors. They don't want anybody to worry about them, and so it'll be like just a passing cloud, and you'll think, "Oh, I didn't really see anything. Oh, I'm just seeing things." But pay attention because they don't want you to see. They don't want you to notice. They don't want to upset anybody.
And I just wanna put in I interviewed a gal who wrote a book about she had 2 sons. She has 2
Mm,
sons, and her oldest son was, um, he by the age of 12, he had graduated high school. By the age of 15, he graduated university. By the age of 16, he was teaching physics and
mhm,
he was teaching, like, huge math and science at a major university, in his
mhm.
undergrad years. And at, I think, 22 or 23, he committed or he what is the proper term? Because we don't call it it's she gave me a term. It's not that the it
Yeah,
yes,
they die by suicide.
he died by suicide.
Yeah,
And she and she was very much going, "There is no set individual." And that's the thing is you
yeah,
can't look and say that they're blonde and blue-eyed or they're, heavier set or
mhm,
you cannot there's nothing that
yeah,
tells you who will be the
yeah,
next person who dies of suicide. And,
yeah,
that's That's what I think is very fascinating about this. This is something that we don't talk about,
Mhm.
but, it it
Yeah.
it it can affect anyone at any time.
Yeah. A lot of parents I've heard will say, "Oh, I don't wanna bring it up and give them ideas." Well, they don't need anybody giving them ideas. Everybody knows about suicide. It's a big problem among kids. So you're not giving them ideas, having the conversation. They already know about it.
It's already there. It's yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
movies, everything's already there. Everything's already telling us that this is a way out, right? So
Yeah.
why don't we have the counter conversation
Mhm.
going on?
One of the conversations that I suggest people have with their kids, and I wish I'd had it with my kids, um, is very simple. I would rather hear the most awful thing about you than to go to your funeral.
And I think that needs to be every parent's conversation because this world is now too small. There are too many influences and negative influences on our children. It's
Yeah.
interesting because they did like a national what do you want to be when you grow up in the United
Mhm.
States, and the number one response was influencer. And
Really? Huh.
yes, it's kinda sad way, it's no longer doctor, lawyer,
Ah,
police
uh-huh.
officer, it's influencer, and the problem with
Mm,
that is the influencer is not overnight, and it
mhm,
doesn't have a lot of rhyme and rhythm to it unless you come from influence, right? It doesn't
mhm.
have a lot of, like, how it
Yep.
happens, and it's actually a very
Yeah.
unrealistic and sets these children up for
Mhm.
disappointment, which can lead
Yeah.
to, well, if this isn't gonna happen, if I'm not an influencer by the age of 21, I have my
Yep.
life has no purpose. And I
Mhm.
think these are all conversations that we need to have. It's fascinating 'cause, they did the same study in China, and they did the
Mhm.
exact same thing, and the number 1 was, doctor. Right? So they were into
Mhm.
science and math, but it also comes from what we share with our children, right? So
Mhm.
the influence of social media, and that's why I think these conversations are so important because we have to put these conversations out in the media to help counter the things that
Yep.
can actually cause, harm.
Yeah. Yeah, very much
So
so. We need to have these conversations.
so we know the story of resilience. And I think that you've probably
Mhm.
gone through multiple stories of resilience in your life. Just the fact that your family was first generation immigration to the United States, that's a huge
Mhm.
story in resilience. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people who are first generation Canadian, and to see their excitement and their pride and moving to the country and adopting the
Uh-huh.
culture. It is so cool to
Yeah.
watch that, but it takes huge resilience because you're learning and trying to find that blend. So there's that first level that
Yeah.
you've already gone through as a young child, and to move through and then
Mhm.
being married to somebody in the military and having to move and resettle and
All
stuff.
the
I have
time.
I have family that's been in the military, and I know I've watched them go through this
Yeah.
resettlement, and this resilience of, keeping the
Mhm.
core stable while everything else changes. But obviously the
Yeah.
greatest resilience as a mother of 3 is
Yeah.
to lose a child, and not just 1 child, but
Mhm.
2 children.
Yeah.
Aside from your motorcycle, and aside from gaining absolute clarity in your speaking, your directive, where you're going with the balance of your life,
Mhm.
can you share with us a few strategies, a few ideas, things you did for self-care, things you did to help nurture you to the point where you could get on the motorcycle and you could
Yeah.
stand on the stage?
Yeah. What keeps me going, I call it the 3 Ps. The first one is people. You have to have your people. I have people that I can call anytime. And as an example, at one point, I couldn't speak English. After losing the boys, there was one day I came home from work and I lost English. I could only speak Czech. And my husband realized that I was speaking Czech and called one of those people. And Petra dropped everything and came to my side and spoke to me in Czech for an hour, just praying, holding my hands, and speaking to me gently in Czech until I could speak English again. So people like that you can count on. That's people. And then peace. You got to know how to find peace. And for me, that's getting on my motorcycle. And one of the things that I love about my motorcycle is when I'm out in the countryside and I don't have to be 360 focused all around me, I can let the tears flow and I can scream in my helmet and nobody's going to call police. And I can just let it all out, you know? I get peace. And then the third thing is purpose. You've got to have purpose. That's what keeps me going now.
I am writing this down because this is beautiful. This is
Oh,
purpose.
thanks.
So let's move into I wanna chat a bit about, how first of all, so how can people reach you? Is it through your website,
Mhm.
project247.org? Reach you
Yeah,
if they
there's
wanted
a
you to come
contact
to the
form on there.
school? Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, I'm just writing this down. People, peace. I'm gonna put this
Mhm.
on a
And
short
purpose.
and purpose. So let's talk about the
Mhm.
purpose. So they can
Yeah.
reach you and book you through project247.org.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I note there's cost of putting fuel in the motorcycle. I know you've already sold your home.
Yeah.
You're living off of savings and equity from the home.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
is there a way that people can support your journey going to the schools? Can the schools
Mhm.
pay some sort of nominal fee? Like, how can we
There is
support
yeah.
you on this journey?
Yeah, there is a speaker's fee for the schools, and, because it's a whole program. I start by working with the counseling team to figure out who they want those people to be, and making sure that those people have the training they need before I speak. So there's a whole background of work that goes with this that needs to be done beforehand. So I do charge for school programs. Um, an honorarium from an organization, if I go speak, that would be wonderful. I'd really appreciate that. But primarily, my speaking is for Project 24/7, and I'm a 1099 contractor for Project 24/7, so they can support my travels a little bit, but we need to focus on getting the fundraising for that app to be built. That's really the primary fundraising focus. So if you want to donate right now, you can just fill out the contact form and let us know you'd like to donate. We have a bank account and we can figure out how to get the donation. We should have a donate button going up there shortly. As soon as we get that 501 document, then we'll have a donate button on the website. Like I say, we're waiting for that any day now. And we'll have that donate button and you'll get a receipt and everything.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm looking forward to that. I do promise everybody you're listening to this, I will have that project247.org as we are currently rebuilding our resilient community online, totally free. It has all these videos, it has all of the workshops that we've accumulated over the years from our different events, things like that. I will have that project247.org connection right in our resource corner for all of our
Hmm.
amazing guests and speakers like yourself. Um, and in the
Yeah.
show notes, all this information will be in all the show notes also.
And the other way you can support me is my YouTube channel.
Oh,
As I
yes, let's
travel
talk
around the
about that.
country as I travel around the country, I have a moto vlog. Some of it is just watching a motorcycle ride, so you get the feeling that you're on the motorcycle, listening to some music, going through the countryside, and some of it is how-tos. so that people can go have their own adventure. And some of it is just out of the way. What I discovered going when I put avoid highways on my GPS, I've discovered, did you know there is a petrified forest in Flora, Mississippi? Everybody thinks about the petrified forest out west,
Yep.
but and I've seen antique cars. I've seen a Packard. We've
Oh,
all heard the
wow.
word Packard. I actually got to see one. All kinds of crazy things that I've seen on the road, and so I put that on my vlog. So if you
Amazing.
wanna see it, and there's cool things like how to pack for a trip that might be helpful even if you're not on a motorcycle.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
what they're charging for luggage on an airplane now, we probably should
yeah.
watch those tips. I travel everywhere in my Volkswagen Bug, so I
Oh,
love road
nice.
trips, and
Mhm.
I I drove from Calgary, Alberta to Atlanta. 9,000 kilometers round trip, and
Yeah.
in that journey, the travel center in Missouri is amazing. There's some do check
Mm,
out all the travel centers, like, there's some
yes.
incredible travel centers out there, and their staff
Yeah.
I wanna give a huge shout out to all these travel center staff. Some of these staff
Mhm.
are amazing. I feel like I've been personally welcomed to that state. And
Yeah,
so
the one in Arkansas? Oh
yes,
my gosh,
that's the one
they
I
were
was
so
thinking of, not
sweet.
Missouri, it's Arkansas. Arkansas has a and the building is beautiful and all the trees and
Yeah,
everything, and the staff, you're absolutely
yeah.
right. That's the one it wasn't Missouri, it was Arkansas because
And they even have a booklet for motorcycling visitors.
oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Definitely get out there and explore the world, that's for sure. What's a book? Have you listened to many books, on your travels? So what's a book you would
I don't
recommend to
listen
people?
to much. I don't listen to much, but when I read, um, uh, for entrepreneurs, the best book that I've ever read was Exceptional Service, Exceptional Profit.
Exceptional
And
service, exceptional
that one is by the team that worked with the Ritz-Carlton to make them the outstanding, um, kind of, standard of
yeah,
service.
the gold star.
Everybody thinks of Ritz-Carlton, it's and there's examples that they give of anticipatory service.
Yeah,
So you anticipate what someone will need and make sure to provide for that need. And so for entrepreneurs, I thought that really gives you a lot of meaty, actionable information.
absolutely. Do you journal? Do you do anything along those lines? Like, is there
A little
anything
bit, a
a
little
little
bit.
bit?
I'm writing a book,
You're writing a book,
so
that's awesome.
when I write, I try to focus on that. And it's tentatively titled The Beach because I wrote a description of what it's like to be a survivor after you lose someone to suicide. And I called it The Beach. And it's about how you make it to the beach, but now you can never leave the beach. Those waves are going to come and hit you,
Yeah,
and you never know when and you never know why, but this is your new normal. You now live on the beach.
yeah, and you never it's not that you feel better or get better or move past.
Mhm,
You never will do that, right? You're
mhm.
always going to be a mother. You're always going to be the wife to that
Yeah,
person, the sibling to that person. There's always
yeah.
going to be a vacancy. I mean, we lose my grandfather's been passed for 20 plus years and he died of natural causes at the age of
Mhm,
like 90 and I
mhm.
still miss him. There's still a
Yeah,
hole that he left, right? So,
yeah.
to lose somebody well before their time,
Mhm.
and death by suicide is, I believe, probably much harder. and I personally have not experienced this, thank God.
Yeah,
Believe it's probably much harder than losing somebody to an auto accident or something like that because that there's there's blame, there's somewhere to shove that feeling of
yeah,
loss, whereas the last thing we wanna do is blame or get angry at the loved one, right? So there's literally nowhere
yeah, they
we
were
can't
hurting.
we can't blame cancer, we can't blame the car accident, or that freak, snowmobile or skiing or anything like that, there's nothing to blame but
Yeah,
ourselves. Did we miss something? Did we not hear something? And that
yeah,
is compounded, right? So,
yeah,
I have watched this from a distance through a family member, and I
yeah.
commend you. I commend you like, what you're doing, Michelle, is beautiful,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry it took the
Thank you.
journey to get to where you are. I look forward to your book. I look forward to your TEDx. I look forward to you in the next 10 years of your journey, because you definitely have that in you, of that clarity of message, of activating an application that is standardized across
Mhm.
all schools, across
Yep.
the entire country, s that every person who's vulnerable has this app in their phone or on their person.
Yeah.
And that's what I truthfully wish for you and your journey and what you're doing. You've already paid the price, now let's get the reward, and that reward is helping to save others.
Thank
I
you.
I just wanna go through again. You can, follow Michelle on Checking Out America, and that's CZECHING_out_America on YouTube. I think I'm gonna go and check out, Michelle and Checking Out America because that looks like a lot of fun. Do go do you have, at this point in time, any kind of newsletters or any kind of engagement space aside from YouTube or anything that's kinda in the works at this point in time that people can
Right now,
actually engage with you?
we need a social media person for Project 24/7. So if anybody wants to volunteer,
Let's
we
put
need
it
a
out
social
there.
media
Let's put it
person.
out there. We need to get this
Yeah.
message far and wide, folks. And if you're working in a similar vertical, great things happen because great minds come together.
Mhm.
Let's band
Yeah.
together and grow this because I personally have not heard, after 1,000 interviews, have not heard of an application like this. And I think that this app could be really critical to a youth that needs, that, or even somebody's
Mhm.
husband. You're
Yeah.
seeing
It's
shift, you're
for
seeing
the
something
app is
and
gonna be for anybody.
exactly.
Um, and the neat thing about it is when people are having those conversations, you don't say, "Hey, can I put you in my phone?" You're going to be going to someone and making the conversation a little more easy by saying, "Hey, can I be in your phone? I want you to set this up in your phone." And at that point, there are gonna be a lot of people who say, "Really? You don't mind? Because I really need to talk." Because you never know who needs to talk.
Yeah.
And starting that conversation just by setting up Project 24/7 on your phone, those conversations are gonna happen and people are gonna be saved.
You're a beautiful person, Michelle. I am so honored that I get the chance to talk to you before, you become this very well-known name and you get this. I'm glad that I get a chance to be part of the origin of this chapter of your life. Um,
Thank you.
share with us a closing quote, and you gave us one, and if you could share this with us, and then tell us
Yeah.
why this quote means something to you.
This too shall pass. My grandmother told my mother told me, and I always told the children. And my oldest son, Nicholas, who we lost, was a musician, and he actually wrote a song. This too shall pass. He called it My Stitches Itch. So it's It's a very hard song. It's about loss and redemption and, driving on after some very hard things happen. Um, and This too shall pass has a double meaning. It's good for every circumstance because when you're in the tough times, good times are gonna come again. This isn't gonna last forever. But in the good times, it's a reminder, soak this in, hold on to these memories, make these memories lasting memories, because when the hard times come, and they will, you can remember these good times and they'll come back.
On that note, Michelle, I wish you all the best in your journey. You are doing something that is so desperately needed, and I thank you for your time. I am going to go check because I will never be able to ride a motorcycle. I do not have any
You
coordination
can
or
pretend
balance
though.
to me. I'm going to walk. I'm going to ride
Yeah,
your motorcycle on your YouTube channel. So
there you
remember,
go.
I'm going over to checking out America, folks. I'll be there in my glory riding the motorcycle with Michelle. Get on the ride, make it happen. Michelle, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kim. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Absolutely, my dear. Until next time, you know what? Give yourself some grace. Be good to yourself because you deserve it. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that share